The ANC in the Northern Cape has successfully registered candidates for almost all of its municipalities, districts and metros. The ANC's provincial chairperson, Dr. Zamani Saul, has been credited with running a tight ship in South Africa's biggest province, but residents in Kimberly have called for the removal of the mayor after struggling with service delivery for years. Let's bring in Dr. Zamani Saul now as we build up to the elections that will take place before the end of the year. That's according to the decision by the Constitutional Court. Dr. Saul, I suppose the question is the ANC in the Northern Cape satisfied that its candidate selection process will deliver the votes that are needed to retain that province?
Thank you very much, Michelle, and good morning to the viewers of Newzroom Afrika. And thanks for having us here as the ANC from the Northern Cape. We have, you are quite correct, we managed to register about 222 candidates in about 232 wards. So the opening of the registration process by the IEC as a province, we highly welcome it, as it will give us an opportunity also to register candidates in those 10 outstanding ones. But yes?
No, go ahead, please.
Yes, but what I wanted to say is that this time around, the quality and caliber of candidates that we are putting forth, we firmly believe it's men and women of substance who will be able to bring about a much-needed change with regard to service delivery at local municipalities.
I mean, you know, can you take us into our confidence insofar as the process to elect candidates is concerned? It's quite a complicated process, and it always has been. How has that complication continued now that's led to the situation where the ANC as a whole failed to register candidates in 93 municipalities?
Compared to any other party, the ANC embarked on a very intricate and laborious process to identify candidates. We start by having a branch general meeting, and after the branch general meeting, we convene the community meetings so that our candidates can be validated by communities. There's no other political party that has embarked on that process. It's only the African National Congress. None. There's no other political party. So our process has been driven by grassroots democratic participation of communities in identifying their candidates. That actually gives us an upper hand because most of the candidates that have been identified, it's candidates which have been derived directly from communities. Other parties, it has just been going around picking up individuals to come and contest, but our process was very intricate, it was very deep, very qualitative. Hence, the difficulties that we encountered in identifying proper ward candidates that are supported by communities.
So you talk about grassroots and democratic processes of identifying candidates in communities. Can you vouch for democratic? What about the ongoing squabbles insofar as those processes are concerned, even corruption in that process?
Yeah, the nature of the process is prone to a whole lot of complaints. It's prone to problems because with all the challenges that we are having at local municipalities, a political party takes a decision that the issue of identification of ward candidates won't be an internal organizational matter, but we are going to expose this thing to the vagary of community wishes. And we were audacious enough to do that. There's no other political party that will ever do that in this country. It's only the African National Congress, because we're prepared to take the risk in order to ensure that we strengthen grassroots democracy where communities won't only go and vote for candidates, but they will choose the candidates that they want, that they think would best serve them. So that in itself, it's also one of the things that made it extremely difficult for us to register 100% of our ward candidates. And it has been a difficult process, but we are very grateful about having undertaken that process because it actually gave some kind of autonomy to communities where they can choose who they want to become their leaders.
On a national scale, the ANC's target for these local government elections, Dr. Saul, is a target of 55% of the vote nationally. In 2016, it won 53 0.9%. You speak on behalf of the Northern Cape, but nationally, you know, given the challenges the party and the country has faced over the past few years, over the past 2 years almost now of the COVID-19 pandemic, is it plausible that for these local government elections, the ANC is going to increase its take of the votes?
We are definitely going to increase our take of the votes this time around. With the 2016 elections, the ANC conducted some kind of a survey to try and establish the reason why people shunned away and have not voted for the African National Congress, and particularly from our traditional support base. They raised three specific issues. They said they did not vote for the African National Congress because we've got a self-serving leadership, the high levels of corruption, number one. And number two, they said the party is divided. There's high degree of factionalism within the party. That's the reason they won't vote. And the third reason that they raised is political arrogance. I'm certain you know yourself. It's only in the ANC where a swimming pool was called a fire pool. So our traditional support base raised three specific issues, which I've mentioned: corruption, factionalism, and political arrogance. With our deep program of organizational renewal, we are tackling all three issues. Certainly, all South Africans can agree with me when I'm saying that we've embarked on a serious program of eradicating corruption. And number two, South Africans can agree with me that we've got a completely different kind of leadership led by Cyril Ramaphosa, whose approval ratings have increased drastically, and the approval rating of the African National Congress. And South Africans can see there is work taking place to ensure that we unite the party and undermine the work of factions.
Dr. Saul,
so our traditional support base is very happy with the progress that we are making on those three fronts.
You know, that was actually my follow-up question to you. Your traditional support base, is it, I mean, can you honestly say that it is convinced by this project of organizational renewal, specifically insofar as those first two items you listed, corruption and factionalism?
Because organizational renewal is not an event. It's a process, and it's not also linear.
So you're asking voters to trust you, aren't you?
Yes, definitely. That is what we are doing. That we are busy polishing the image of the African National Congress. We want to ensure that the ANC occupy its historic role as leader of society, an agent for change in the country. And what is taking place, and South Africans can see that there is work that is taking place. Organizational renewal is not an event. It will take place, it might even go beyond 10 years, because we have to ensure that we clean up our organization, we clean the slate, so that we can start with the serious work of restructuring the organization into a modern political party that is responsive to the needs of South Africans.
I wonder what analysts will say about that. Let me ask you my next question around the role of a liberation movement like the ANC, which is the governing party for now almost 30 years. Is there at any stage of the internal processes of the party a process that talks to what happens after we are the governing party?
Yes, Check, there is what we normally speak about, which is 20-year curse for all liberation movements. But there are liberation movements right throughout the world that have actually defied it and have a lifespan that goes beyond 20 years, lifespan in government that goes beyond 20 years, and actually having strengthened their hold on government levers. So that's one of the challenges. That is the reason why it is very much important for the movement to have capacity to adapt. The ANC must have enough capacity to adapt to a fast-changing environment, and particularly here in South Africa. And we are busy doing that. That is the reason why, if you look into our policy document, you look at the kind of work that we are doing, we are modernizing the ANC to be a vehicle that is fit for purpose, to be a modern party that is very responsive to a very dynamic constituency, which is very young, very youthful constituency in this country. And that is basically what we are doing. But we say we remain a liberation movement. We are not saying we are remaining a liberation movement because we want to dramatize history. We are saying we remain a liberation movement because we still remain committed to our historic mission. And that historic mission is to ensure that we liberate the people of this country from political oppression, but also we ensure that we liberate the people of this country from the harsh and extremely challenging socio-economic challenges that they are subjected to.
Shall we talk a little bit more about...
We've got a historic mission.
Yeah. Shall we talk a bit more about your province, Dr. Saul, insofar as, your preparations for the upcoming local government elections? You say that you're proud of the work that's been done so far. You're looking forward to the upcoming polls, but there's a lot of work that still needs to be done in municipalities insofar as service delivery is concerned.
Yes, there's massive, and it has been compounded as well by COVID. There's massive amount of work that we need to do. There's challenges with regard to service improvement of service infrastructure, water and sanitation, and there's also massive challenges that we are confronted with to ensure that we strengthen governance of the municipalities. Because one of the biggest challenges that municipalities are confronted with in a small and poor province like the Northern Cape is their revenue generation capacity. If you can't generate revenue, there is no way we will be having the much needed resources to respond to service delivery challenges. So during this period of COVID, the first 6 months of COVID, municipalities in the province lost close to 1 billion rand in revenue. As soon as there was a hard lockdown and the other lockdowns that followed that, there was also a lockdown in terms of payment of services by communities. But we understand that it will be difficult for our communities to pay for some of these services. You sit with a province with a population of 1.3 million. More than 500,000 are social grant beneficiaries. So there's massive challenges that we are confronted with. We have to work very hard to change the economic landscape of the Northern Cape, to ensure that young people get the much needed job opportunities. And work is taking place to ensure that we are going to respond to that.
Dr. Zamani Saul, let me thank you for your time this morning. He is the Northern Cape ANC Chairperson, also Premier of that province, talking to us there as we continue to track the story around local government elections.